everyone, I'm your host Cadence, and welcome back to another episode of Project Honesty, a podcast by a young adult for young adults to acquire unfiltered advice and bold opinions, as well as take deep dives into the issues shaping our world. We'll challenge ideas, explore new perspectives, and have fun while navigating the ups and downs of life. This is Project Honesty, where truth meets curiosity and every conversation matters. If you haven't already, go check out last week's episode called The Friendship 5, a blueprint for healthy friendships. We as people all eventually find friendships. These connections shape us and our values and play a vital role in sustaining our mental health and attitude. But sometimes, especially as young people, we grow out of people, even people we thought would be in our lives forever. In this episode, I talk about how to differentiate a real friend from a phony, signs a friendship is expiring, how to build healthy communication habits in and out of friendship, and how to know when someone is being a really great friend. Take a listen now, and if you enjoy this episode, you could maybe even send it to some of your friends. That is available on Spotify and YouTube. If you haven't already, go follow our Instagram, which is project_honesty24. This is where we release all of our weekly topics every Sunday. So if you haven't seen what today's episode's about on our Instagram, today's topic is risk-taking. I want to discuss the importance of risk-taking, some of the benefits, how to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, and what that will mean for you, the lessons and takeaways from immersing yourself in that unfamiliar environment, and why risk-taking is so vital for young people from a young person. What does it mean to take a risk? It's stepping into the unknown, making a decision with no guaranteed outcome or result. You're risking discomfort, instability, failure, or loss, and not only for yourself, but for those around you, especially when thinking of, say, like financial risks. You often are taking a bet on yourself or your ability to do something or complete something, and risks are often taken while trying to achieve goals or dreams. How do you gauge what is a risk to you and how big of a risk it is to you? I broke this down into like 5 different sections. Number 1 is you want to identify your comfort. Risks are often outside of our comfort zones and our safe zones. So it's important when analyzing our personal risks. So if it's outside of your comfort zone, it is technically a risk. And risks are healthy. Stepping outside of your familiar environments is healthy. Some questions you can ask yourself when trying to identify that comfortable environment and that boundary is, does it challenge you? And does it differentiate you from your normal way of thinking or being? To take a risk, we have to know comfort, because taking risks as a whole is uncomfortable. And so we have to identify our comfort first. Number 2. What are the stakes and what are you willing to risk or sacrifice? So what are you risking? Are you risking your relationships, your time, your energy, your money, someone else's money? And when I say energy, I always say don't put your energy into things where it isn't reciprocated. But that is a really tricky principle to follow when taking risks, because sometimes we put all of our hard work and energy into a personal risk and it isn't returned to us. Another thing that you could be risking is your emotional and physical well-being. And something that I often find myself asking myself is, are you okay with losing or changing your norm in order to take this risk? What am I losing if this doesn't work out, right? And am I okay with losing these things? I'm gonna use acting as an example throughout this episode. But when I sign up for a show, it is technically a risk, even though I am comfortable in that environment, but it is uncomfortable at the same time because I am risking so many things. I am risking my mental health because it's a new role. I don't know how this role is going to affect me emotionally. The people that I'm working with, that is another thing. Cast members play a huge role in that risk, because you could be taking a chance on people that don't want to work like you work. And that is risking your success. And so you have to go into these situations considering, are you okay with losing these things? And another thing, like when I think about acting, is I lose a lot of my free time and I spend it doing something that I love, yes, but I am losing that personal time to get homework done, to find a job, to do all these certain things. And that in itself is a risk. Tying into that is number 3. What is the potential outcome or reward of this risk? What does it bring you if this risk pays off? Is it success? Is it prosperity? Is it personal growth? Personal growth is something that can happen even when risk-taking doesn't work out for you. Is it new opportunities or experiences? It could be whatever. Something that is very important, and it ties into point 2, is, are you hungry for that reward, right? Are you willing to sacrifice certain things for this hunger, for success? Sacrifice and risk go hand in hand. The more you sacrifice something, the more you're risking something. And sacrifice comes in many different forms, and it has a different definition for us. And when it comes to the outcome and the reward, what is the best outcome or the ideal outcome? And asking yourself this, like, thinking about that question, this is why risks are so personalized to everyone, because everyone's idea of success varies slightly or drastically. And the things that people are willing to risk also differ from person to person. So someone may look at me and go, well, I would never risk that much of my time for a show that may or may not work out in my favor or benefit me. But there's also other people that would do double what I'm doing and risk things that I'm not even willing to risk. So risks are very personalized in the way that we all take different sacrifices and we all have different outcomes. Number 4 is differentiating fear and nerves and scared feelings versus anticipation, excitement, and opportunity. Fear is an emotion that tends to signal that we are taking a risk or doing something that is uncomfortable, but fear can be utilized to push ourselves further. Now, an analogy that I like to use, I use it a lot actually, is never let your fear take the wheel, but you can always have it in the back seat. Fear is a good emotion to have. We have fear for a reason. It's to warn us something is unsafe. But a great way to identify and break down our fear is asking ourselves, okay, is this dangerous? Am I putting myself into a dangerous situation, therefore I fear it? Or is it, I am experiencing fear because I'm in an environment that is new and unfamiliar, and I am unable to predict exactly what's going to happen, therefore I fear it. There is a big difference between danger and unfamiliarity. So you really have to take that step back to ask yourself, is it dangerous or is it unfamiliar? Because if we let fear take over when something is unfamiliar, we don't take risks. That's not a risk because you're letting fear take the wheel. But when we are saying, okay, this is dangerous, this is going to harm me mentally or physically, I think it's an okay time to let fear take the wheel in that situation. But when something is unfamiliar, putting fear in the back seat is something that we really need to do in order to take the next step in our risks. And fear can often be confused with our excitement or anticipation. Being excited about something can indicate that you are taking a positive risk and there is potential for growth and opportunity. And number 5, the impact, recovery, and continuing to push forward after failure. Does taking this risk, even if it's not fulfilled completely, further push you towards your goal? Are you, or did you, get closer to who you want to be or the aspiration you were pursuing? Sometimes taking a risk doesn't fully get us where we want it to be, but it can get us closer. And if taking that risk doesn't work out, don't be afraid of failure. Failure is very normal, and we should all experience failure because failure doesn't signal defeat. It shows that you're willing to be uncomfortable, your willingness to try, and it shows that you have some sort of ambition, because you wouldn't be taking a risk if you weren't ambitious for something. What shows your ambition more is the decision to keep going despite this failure. A quote that I randomly thought of while writing this episode is from John Cena. He once said, "Failure gives you two options. You either stay down or you pick yourself back up." And truly that is how it is. Failure is a two-way street, and there's one way you really don't want to go down, and that's staying down. You really need to be able to pick yourself up from failure. Failure is the greatest lesson I think people can experience. And truly, like, if you let a risk take over you so much that you stay down, it kind of leaves you at a dead end for yourself. So instead of staying down, there's recovering from a risk. So you need to reassess and re-examine that situation. And your goal doesn't have to be the exact same, but continuing to take risks, big or small, can determine the amount of success that you reach. So you can take 100 small risks and reach the same amount of success that you can take with 2 big risks. So it's all about how you choose to separate that for yourself. And whether or not this risk works out for you, again, there's always a lesson to be picked up from both experiences. Failure and success teaches you 2 very different things, but they're very much important. Now I want to talk about how to self-initiate taking these risks. One thing that I want to get out of the way right away is that you cannot rely on others to push you to take risks. Sure, they can help you get close to that boundary and that edge or whatever, but you have to be the one pushing beyond that boundary for yourself. You know your boundaries better than anyone else knows your boundaries, and I think that this is also why identifying your safe zone and your comfort zone is really important in taking risks, is so that you know how far you need to go for something to be considered a risk. But truly, like, if someone is taking risks for you, then you're not taking risks, right? You are the one at the end of the day pushing yourself there. And sometimes it may not feel like it, but truly, like, you are the only one that can take risks for yourself. One of the rules that I give myself when I self-initiate taking risks, and one of the principles that I just have in my life in general, is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I've said this in many different variations on this podcast, but truly that is what it comes down to, is being comfortable with uncomfortable. Put yourself in those vulnerable situations and get yourself in an environment that is so unfamiliar to you, it quite literally forces you to take these risks. Again, I'm going to use acting as an example. It forces risks through being comfortable with the uncomfortable. New scripts and new characters are emotionally challenging sometimes. And I am taking a risk when I do a new show because I don't know the toll that it's going to have on me. I don't know if I'm going to get the result that I'm chasing. I don't know if I'm working with a good team. I don't know if I'm going to like all my cast. I don't know if I'm going to like my director. That is me taking a risk in order to reach this goal. Like, I want to become a successful actor. This is what I do. I put myself in, like, and it seems kind of stupid because I am very comfortable as an actor and in the acting space, but there are times where it is uncomfortable, and you truly have to find the things that make it comfortable for you in order to push that risk further. And like, acting in general is socially and artistically, like, it pushes you to take those risks, which is probably why I love it, is because I consistently get to immerse myself in uncomfortable and unfamiliar environments and get used to that, which is an opportunity not a lot of people have or are able to create for themselves. But when you find that, stay in it. And another thing about self-initiating risk-taking is, and it's a foundation of Project Honesty, is challenging your own perspective. Do something you might disagree with, and it will teach you something. And it's not going to feel fun sometimes. It's not going to feel comfortable. But challenging your own perspective is a risk that is super, super healthy and is a really good way to grow as a person. Now getting to kind of the point of this episode and why I wanted to make this episode in the first place is to talk about the importance of risk-taking and the benefits of risk-taking. First off, you have personal growth. Pushing your boundaries can reveal a lot about the type of person that you are. And it uncovers how you choose to approach the challenges that you face in your life. And that is a really good way to grow. It helps you discover your strengths and capabilities. And it can also show you the aspects of your life that you need to focus on. For me, I know that when I'm taking risks or where I am putting myself in situations that push my boundaries, I always need to remember to focus on self-care. This is something that I don't do ever. Oops. But it's something that I definitely need to work on, that I've noticed when it comes to me taking risks. Another thing is overcoming challenges that come with failure. That in itself boosts your resiliency as a person. When you face more challenge than you thought you could, that is going to make you more resilient. There's also newfound opportunity. Through risk-taking, you often build new connections and you have new experiences or build skills that weren't achievable in your zone of comfort. Really, that is an opportunity, again, for personal growth. And it's something that is so beautiful to experience when you, when taking risks, is getting those opportunities to meet new people or to have new experiences or new skills. Because risk taking is one of the core parts about getting opportunities. This happens a lot with big risk taking, especially. It can open doors for you to achieve higher than what you thought was possible. I think about a coach in this situation. Coaches are the ones pushing you beyond your limit sometimes. They are pushing you places you didn't think you could be. And I think when you are that for yourself, when you are your own coach, it can open so many doors for you. And it's also really cool to see yourself achieving things you didn't think you could achieve. Like when I think of the podcast, like I didn't think I could honestly, like truly achieve this and it be sustainable for me, because this is a challenge. But I took that on and I saw that I could achieve higher than what I thought. So that newfound opportunity is very heavily tied in with risk taking. Then you also have adaptability and lessons. Risks, despite their failure or success, will expand the knowledge that you have of yourself, others, and the world around you. And this, again, ties in heavily with number one, personal growth. Especially with failure in risk-taking, you develop new skills that make you more adaptable. And that is a part of personal growth. And a part of the lessons, your sense of regret lessens when you take more risks, because a lot of people look back on opportunities that they had and didn't take. So you already achieved something by taking that risk because you used your opportunity to take a risk to grow. People who are willing to take more risks gain more things because they are willing to risk more. That's just like a fact. There's a certain level of confidence in achieving future goals when a risk works out. It gives you this newfound sense of confidence in your ability to achieve harder goals or bigger dreams. And taking risks means that you're willing to be bold, to make moves that sometimes make people question what you're doing. And sometimes they can even make yourself take a step back and ask yourself what the hell you're doing. One of the quotes I like about this is, "Dream so big it makes small-minded people uncomfortable." That's something I try to remind myself of every day, is that I should be dreaming so big that everyone else thinks it's impossible. And calculated risks pay off. Millionaires and billionaires and people that have reached financial success specifically have talked about how their calculated risks have paid off. There is a certain amount of research that goes into their risks specifically, but it does pay off. So remember, like, dream so big. Dream so big it makes small-minded people uncomfortable. That's when you know that you're dreaming at the right level. There's also authenticity and identity. Risks allow you to build a life that feels true to you, not something that's closed off, conventional, or safe. If you're living a very safe life and not taking any risks, to me, that's not living. Risks is a part of living. Having a consistent safety net is not truly experiencing the human experience. You have to be uncomfortable and do things that might not work out to feel authentic in the way that you live your life. And number 6 is being an inspiration. Be the person taking big risks. Show others the power of being bold. showing others the result of letting go of your fear and embracing that struggle, and showing what happens when you let go of the limitations and power of the limitations can be inspiring to some people. I mean, like, I've heard it, not to toot my own horn, but like toot toot. People have told me specifically that I push them to do better. I mean, like, I don't see how I do that. I kind of just exist. But like, truly, I think the way that I take risks in my life, choose to be bold in my life, shows others that it is okay to be bold and that it's really an amazing thing to be bold. So that's my message to y'all, is like, be fucking bold. Be so bold, because that is a really fun risk to take. Now I want to talk about why young people should utilize their age in order to take bigger risks more often. We young people are in a very unique position to take bigger risks. First off, we have fewer responsibilities and greater flexibility. Our stakes are lower, and that freedom makes it easier to bounce back to home base when we fuck certain things up. We have malleable minds. We are still developing mental and physical resilience in our life, and our energy is higher. And so we tend to set bigger goals because we have a greater imagination than older adults. We also have the beautiful gift of time. So time gives us the ability to fail, experience, adapt, and try again. And taking risks early on helps us develop these important life skills like problem solving, decision making, and resilience. These skills will provide us a solid foundation for future challenges and successes. And risk-taking can also lead to early breakthroughs in our careers and our passions or personal growth. And when it comes to mistakes and failure when young people take risks, society tends to be more forgiving of young people's mistakes. And so this provides a safe space to experiment, to fail, and to grow without facing harsh consequences like an adult would. Taking risks when you're young fosters that mindset that prioritizes learning over fear of failure. Never fear failure. It won't take you anywhere, I promise. Always remember that everything is a learning opportunity. Even if it's not like the funnest lesson, it's always a learning opportunity. And another thing that's great about young people taking risks is that we often bring fresh ideas and new perspectives, especially in the world and society that we live in now. And so by taking risks, we can innovate and create change and kind of pilot ideas and leave a lasting impact on our communities and industries. And if you think about it, many world-changing ideas and movements have been driven by us young people that are unafraid to challenge the status quo. That is something that's super important. Risk-taking also requires you to not give a shit. Like, you have to not care what anybody else thinks about your risk or the risk that you're taking. And that's why, like, I like to joke, I'm like, okay, I'll do shit that scares my mom, because clearly that's a big enough risk. When you are unafraid of a challenge, it just shows how bold you are. And those risks sometimes, and most of the times, work out. Again, going back to the regret thing, older people often reflect on these missed opportunities from their youth. So taking risks while you're young helps you live fully, and it prevents the inevitable what if regrets later on. What if is like the worst thing to ever happen. Oh my god, I hate what ifs. And at the end of the day, as a young person, it is better to try and fail than to never try at all. Or as some famous person said, I think it was Wayne Gretzky, ? I don't actually know. But you miss all the shots you don't take. So be bold, take risks, be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and I promise there will be lessons that are so beneficial to you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Project Honesty. You can check us out on social media. Our Instagram is project_honesty24. We post some nice content on there. And every week there's an episode release post that will tell you the topic a day in advance. Our TikTok is project.honesty, and our website is linked in our Instagram bio. Project Honesty is available for listening on Spotify and YouTube. So if you enjoy listening to Project Honesty, share us with friends and family, and you can direct them to the Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, website, or TikTok to help them learn more. Subscribe, follow, and click the bell icon for updates when I post. And remember, the more listeners, the bigger the family.